Hey there, welcome back to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Begley, and in today's episode, we are digging into the lessons that I learned with a complete and total rehab of a rental house project. Now, I had no experience rehabbing houses. This was new to me. We purposely got this house because it looked like it was just going to be a cosmetic update. Turned out it was a full rehab, but that's okay because I learned a lot of incredible lessons. And coincidentally, all of those lessons can be applied to lessons for our photography business or even just our photography craft. So anyway, stay tuned. This is an incredible episode, and I, of course, brought my friend Heather on so we could dive into all of these lessons together. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. Nicole here from Hair of the Dog, and I'm back once again with the one, the only, Heather Lahtinen. Welcome back to the podcast, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. My favorite days, I call them Nicole days. Here we are.
Oh, yep. And today is one of those. Spoiler alert, we are batching because we like productivity, and we are about to record 3 podcast episodes. So I am hanging out all morning with my best buddy, Heather.
I love it. This is going to be so fun. Okay, so what are we talking about first? What do we got?
Okay. All right. So I did this as a super quick 7-minute Instagram live back in September. And I was like, this really needs to be expanded upon in the podcast. And I thought about just doing a solo episode, but quite frankly, solo episodes are really not that much fun. And I would much rather chat with you about these things. So we are diving deep into the 5 lessons that I learned rehabbing a rental house.
Oh, wow. Okay, I love this because I'm very curious about real estate and having a rental house. And I love that you do everything first. So you can figure out all of the issues and problems. And then if I decide to go that route, you can teach me.
I love it. I love it. Yes. No. Real estate has been something we've been interested in for quite a while, and we've dabbled in. We have a rental house in Alabama that we purchased. Oh gosh, 6 years ago maybe. But that was kind of a turnkey rental purchase where we didn't do any of the rehab. We
Mm,
bought the house and started renting it out. And we chose Alabama because the numbers worked, and also they have very friendly landlord laws.
I love
And
Alabama, by the way. We travel through
yeah,
there at least once or twice a year, and I love it.
I've actually never been. Never been to this
You've never
house.
been to your own rental house?
No. Nope, sure haven't.
Okay.
Um,
That one's totally hands off then.
100%. Well, and the new one is now that the rehab is done, because we choose to hire property managers because I don't have space in my life for a 2 a.m. phone call about,
Right.
something
Right.
being broken.
Yeah, that's my
Um,
fear, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, there's ways to work around that.
Mm.
Which is not a lesson on the thing, but it should be one of the lessons is that, there are ways to set up your business, your life for ways that work for you. So if you don't want that 2 a.m. phone call that the toilet's clogged, well, then you can hire a property manager and then just make sure you work all those numbers to make sure that the numbers still work.
Okay, this is interesting. So this is going to be a bonus lesson right at the beginning because I wonder how many people want to start a photography business or grow a business, and there's this one thought
Hmm.
that prevents them from moving forward. So my one thought about real estate is I don't want the 2 a.m. call.
Hmm.
Because I have that thought and I don't even question how to work around it, I just don't do it. I don't take any action. And then the result is I have no rental house, right?
Right, right.
But if I took the time to talk it out with you and you said, Heather, what's the fear? And I said 2 a.m. phone calls. And then you explained to me this thing about property management, I'd be like, oh, I didn't I guess I knew that was a thing, but I just never I don't know, I didn't think about it. So, in regards to a photography business, I want everyone to ask themselves, what is the thought that you're not even questioning?
And this could be photography business or learning the craft, whatever it is that you want to do that you haven't done yet or you haven't started on. What's the one thing that you feel like is the main roadblock holding you back?
Oh, good question. What is the main roadblock or the biggest challenge that is preventing you from moving forward? And could we chat about it and just question it? Like, is
Mhm.
that actually true? You know, a really easy example of this is when someone says, "Oh, Heather, you don't understand my market. People won't pay that." And so they just don't move forward with maybe IPS
Mhm.
because, or another one is IPS takes too much time.
Yep. Right.
And
Right.
I don't want to, so they never even explore the possibility because of this one thought that blocks literally everything. This is so fascinating. And what's even more interesting is this was not on our agenda at all.
Nope, nope. As most things go with our conversations, we go down some rabbit holes. There's one more example that I just feel like I have to pull out for you,
Okay.
and that is your belief that turning your business to file as an S corp will be hard.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. So recently, my accountant, Nicole and I share an accountant, which is actually very convenient because we have similar businesses and they're a little bit different than his traditional brick and mortar. So it's actually really helpful. But I spoke to him recently and he said, Heather, he's been telling me for a couple years, but he's like, no, really, it's time. If you switch to an S corp, you will save this amount of money in taxes. Like, and it doesn't make sense for everyone to go to an S corp, right? It depends on your growth and where you're at. It just makes sense for me. I'm an LLC right now, and he showed it to me, and I immediately, got on the phone with you, and I'm like, I'm all dejected, and I'm like, "This is gonna be so hard, Nicole. I don't know how. It's gonna be complicated. This is challenging. It's just one more thing I have to do. What do you mean I have to set up payroll? I've never done payroll. I don't know how to do that." This litany of excuses and reasons.
Litany. I'm like, Heather, it is one form you print off from the IRS website and you sign and you mail to them. And then it is just setting up payroll for something that's super easy like Gusto that literally takes 10 minutes.
And, I don't know if I am proud or embarrassed to say that I actually took this situation to my coach. So I have a coach. And, it was great. I mean, I got some great advice, and the coach asked me, "What is the problem or what is the circumstance?" Well, it's an S corp, and he said, "What are you thinking about it?" I said, "This is gonna be really hard." And then when you feel like something's gonna be hard, you don't take action because you feel
Oh,
like crap,
100%.
right?
Right.
And so then nothing happens. And, you know, this is what got me when he said, "Hard is a choice. Challenging,
Mm.
difficult, that's a choice. Are there going to be a few steps involved to make this change? Sure. You have a team to help you. You have resources. But
You have
but
your best friend Nicole to be like, hey,
literally,
how do I do this?
not only do I have you with our accountant.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
there's just no, plus we have the interwebs. I mean, I
Yes.
could I could search anything.
And Um, just what shameless plug, and you need to go listen to it too. Yesterday in the Hair of the Dog Academy, I hosted a call with Tiffany Bastian, who is an enrolled agent for the IRS. She helps photographers with their taxes, and we had a whole big long conversation about S corps. So
No kidding. Okay, I
you're
will
gonna have to go
definitely
watch
do
that
that.
replay.
So, anyway, my coach pointed out to me that challenging or hard or difficult or easy for that matter is a choice. What
Mhm.
choice do you wanna make? And I was like, "Uh-huh, okay, here we go." So, what I did that day was I reached out to our accountant and I said essentially, and I quote, "Let's go." Let's
Let's do
go.
it.
Let's make it happen. And I am trusting myself and that I have you and him as a resource. And that it's just, well, I'll tell you how he got me was he showed me the number.
Well, yeah.
And he was like, "You're paying this much more in taxes than you would need to pay if you were filing this as an S corp." And I said, "Dang." And he said, "Do you plan to grow your business?" And I said, "I want to double it next year." And he said, "Well, do you want to double your tax spend
Yeah,
or
right.
not?" I love having people in my life, resources. This is an important message. Really, you shouldn't try to go this alone. Like, it doesn't make
Wait, hold
sense.
on, you're getting ahead to lesson 4. That's right, we'll
Let's
reorder.
go.
So,
Let's go.
let's
Yeah.
start with lesson number 1,
Okay.
previously known as lesson number 4. It's like
Okay.
Prince, he has just a, like, fancy symbol now for this
Right.
lesson. Anyway, which is to seek the advice of experts when you are working on something new. So, for the rental property, I didn't just go out and buy a property by myself. Like, I had a realtor, and how I found this realtor was that I was looking into, do we want to do a long-term rental? Do we want to do a corporate short-term rental? So it's like a medium-term rental. And I was looking on Airbnb because you can search Airbnb for 30 to 60 plus day rentals, which are like
Okay.
more like these corporate furnished rentals. And I found this cute little house in Kannapolis, which is where we were looking to purchase our rental home. And the person that owned the house was a realtor, and she had a couple other things too. I'm like, "Oh, this is my girl." And so I contacted her, and because I knew she knew investments. It wasn't just, you need a little bit of a different realtor for somebody that's looking for an investment potential than, your single family home that you're
Sure.
going to live in. So yeah, so I found her and it was pretty funny. She's like, "How did you find me?" I'm like, "Well, I was going through Airbnb and then I saw your listing and then I saw you were a realtor and then I figured you and I looked you up and this and that." She's like, "Oh my God, I love the story."
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're a detective.
I
Yeah.
promise I'm not a stalker." But then small world, she stopped by. I had to get something to her from her at some point. Maybe a check for closing or something. But she was going to swing by and pick it up at the barn where I keep my horses. Barn, not bar. Everyone thinks I always say at the bar.
Really?
I'm like,
Oh.
I
You
like
don't
chocolate
hang out.
martinis, but I don't spend that much time at the bar. That's usually on my own porch. But anyway, she stopped by and she used to ride horses and she used to horse show at the barn where my horses live now. I'm
No
like, oh,
kidding.
small world.
Yeah, small world. But
Yeah.
it's nice to make that connection. Okay, so you sought out someone to help you make a decision on how you were going to structure this rental, correct?
Yes, yeah. So the realtor and then also a property manager, because the property manager knows what the rental prices are going at,
Oh,
like who the typical tenant is, like all the different things. What is, I asked the property manager, "Hey, do I need to put a washer dryer in there?" They're like, "No, they bring their own." Like, great. So having someone, well, of course, the other expert is of course my contractor. There's no way I could have done this without him.
okay. I need to back you up just a second. You found a property manager, but see, in my mind, and remember, Heather equals simple. In my mind, I'm like, what do you mean you found a property? Like, how does one find a property manager? I don't even know where to
Well,
start with that.
one joins a local investor Facebook group
Mm.
that is free and has lots of conversations and asks, "Hey, who do you guys recommend for property managers
Oh
in the
my gosh.
Kannapolis area?"
This is hilarious because it's literally that simple. You just
Yep.
asked.
And then for my contractor, because one of the other big hangups is like, "Oh my gosh, I'll never find a good contractor." Like you hear all these horror stories of just working with contractors. And, I asked my real estate agent because she had rehabbed that Airbnb that she owned, and people, rehab houses in this part of town all the time, and she had a couple recommendations for me, and this one guy was fantastic, and I'll 100% use him again.
Oh my gosh. Do you feel like you hit the jackpot with that one?
Yes.
Because I don't know what it's like in Charlotte, but in Pittsburgh right now, it is impossible to find a decent contractor. At least I hear this from my friends who are doing different renovations
Yes.
that like they don't get back to you and you can't even you literally can't even find someone to pay to do work for you right
Right,
now.
no, it's very challenging, and then finding someone that you trust,
Right.
especially when you're running a rehab where you're not gonna be on site very often.
Right.
Um, yeah, so
Okay, so
lesson number 1, seeking advice from our experts, which in photography is, you know, not trying to do this by yourself,
yeah.
because guess what? There's lots of people that have been there, and whether you choose to get your education from myself or Heather or somebody else, like, I don't care who you choose. Find a mentor that you connect with and seek help.
Yes, it's just not smart or prudent or a wise use of your time to do otherwise because you will spin your wheels for months, if not years. And worse than that is you'll always be wondering if you're getting good advice. Like if you search the
Right,
internet or YouTube, right? You're always like, well, I mean, that's what they're saying. How can I be sure that that's correct? I think finding an expert means seeking out someone that you trust, that
mhm,
you can ask them questions and maybe join a group. I remember when I first started, I was so headstrong, stubborn, prideful, and I was just going to do everything on my own. I was just going to figure all of this out. Well, I learned really quickly that being on an island is no fun.
right, right,
Yeah. And
yeah,
you're just going to make mistakes that okay, you're going to make mistakes no matter what, but why make the ones you could have avoided? with
Well,
some help.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly, for sure. And, as you're looking to figure out who you want to help you along this journey, the one kind of red flag that I recommend that people look out for is looking for mentors that help you create your business that fits for you. So if you ever run into somebody that's telling you it has to be done this
Yes.
one way,
Yes.
like I would keep looking because yes, if someone's saying, well, this is a best practice, okay, no, that's legit. That's a best practice, but it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. There is no one size fits all solution for craft or business in the photography world or really any world.
I could not agree more. And the way I teach something like pricing is people will say, "Well, do you teach IPS or digital?" And I say, I don't care how you sell your photos. There's a million different ways. There are many hybrid models in between. I will never tell you that you have to do it. Actually, I got to tell you, years ago, you opened my eyes to this concept. This was you. This was you that did this. And I'm
Oh,
just now putting this all together. And it seems silly, but it was Lightroom.
yeah.
So, I was teaching everyone how to organize their photos on their hard drive, and I didn't say it was for everyone, but I was pretty hardcore convinced that it was that it was the best way. And you said to me, "Actually, I do it this way," or maybe it was importing, I don't know, it was
Yeah, yeah.
something around Lightroom. And you said, "I do it this way," and of course I respect you, and I'm like, "Okay, Nicole does it that way and it works for her. Is it possible that there are multiple ways to achieve this?" And something flipped for me. This was years ago that I thought, "Oh man, I've got to make sure that when I'm teaching or mentoring, I'm keeping possibilities open and allowing people to be creative in their own right with their approach to their business and their craft."
Mhm.
That by, setting standards or like, this is the way you do it did not serve them. And it was that event, the Lightroom event. Isn't that funny? I just now put that together. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You're very
Okay.
welcome. All right. Well, that kind of dovetails into number two, which is going to be mistakes are going to happen.
Oh, for sure. So tell me about some of your mistakes.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about how many times I had to return things to Home Depot because I ordered the wrong size or the wrong finish. There, I mean, a very costly mistake actually turned out to be after the house was done, just over the past couple weeks. Our tenant moved in October 15th. And shortly thereafter, within like 2 weeks, like all the sewage was backing up and clogged. So we're
See,
like,
then why is it always the
oh,
sewage?
well, I
Why?
know. So, lesson learned that, and I was like, "What the heck?" I'm talking to my property manager. I'm like, "We replaced all the plumbing. Like, there is all new plumbing in the whole house. Guess what we didn't replace? Oh, the main sewer line from the house to the road, which is cast iron. It should be fine, but we should have. And next time I will make sure that that line is clean before we like close up the house and finish that up." Because this house was vacant for almost 2 years before we started to rehab it. So, nothing has been going through that sewer line for years, and there was a root ball in it that we had to,
Oh, okay.
install a clean out and then flush that line, and thankfully, we don't have to totally dig and, like, re-put in that new line. We were able to fix it, but it was still a several $1,000 fix.
Oh, shoot, man. So, next time you'll just what? Send a camera down there to make sure that the
Yeah,
lines are clear?
yeah, when we're rehabbing the house, we will just go ahead and just double check that to make sure it is good then. Thankfully, there was no damage inside the house, and it was just kind of backed up in the tub and, you know,
Oh my
but
gosh. Yeah,
that is
always
not
a
pleasant.
sewer. Yeah,
Uh-huh,
right.
yeah, yeah. So, anyway, lots of mistakes, but again, a mistake is just an opportunity to learn
Learn.
and to
Yeah.
start again with more information next time. So, when we do this again, because it actually was really, really fun. I loved seeing it's kind of like when you edit a photo, right? It's like this kind of underwhelming raw image, and then you have your final image, and you're like, I can't believe I turned that into this. This
Amazing.
is amazing. And so it's like that with that house. It was like this old, dated, just, like really dated. I mean, I'm talking there was like a 1950s stove in
Woo.
there, like a Westinghouse, like just antique.
Yeah, but they
Um,
last forever,
it
man.
was still working. Like, but anyway, yeah, so, like, being able to take it from this house that was kind of like, you know, feeling very, very sad and dated and just really not clean, to this beautiful place that I'm like, man, I would totally live here.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, you're going to make mistakes and, quote, "failures are going to happen," and you're gonna learn and you'll be at a better place and you'll move forward. I wanna say that somebody said to me the other day, they were it was either in a coaching call or Elevate, they said they were so frustrated because 'cause they're like, "I've made mistakes, right? And now it's like
Yeah.
I'm starting over. I can't believe I have to start over." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not starting over because 'cause
Uh-huh.
you're not at the same point. You're not going back. You're
Yep.
going forward from a new reference point." And actually just talking her through that shifted her. She was so distraught, like frustrated about this concept of starting over. When I helped her reframe it to new reference point, she felt great. And then guess what she did? She just moved forward. She took action and got it done. It's just the thinking around it that kind of like sends us sort of sideways. You're not starting over.
Right.
Any misstep is still helping you to move forward.
Yes. 100%. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yep. Yep. All right. Number 3.
Number 3.
Things take time, and they're going to take more time when you're learning them.
Mm, I don't want
So,
it to
yeah.
take time. I want
Well,
it to happen right now.
yes, you don't have a choice there, Heather. It will get faster. I think back to when you first started like learning Photoshop and editing photos, and how long did it take you to edit your first wedding?
Oh my gosh. I wish I knew the real answer to that, but I have to say it was months. I'm not kidding. It took
Like,
a long
yeah,
time.
right, right. And now, I mean, the most recent wedding you shot, when you have all your workflows, you have just your routine, you know what you're doing, you know what you want to do to these images. It's like boom, you can knock that
8
out.
hours. Actually, I did time it. I started timing everything at one point, and so I had 3,000 images from a wedding. I delivered, 650, I believe, and it took me 8 hours. I timed it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. As a portrait photographer, that seems really, really long, but I've never shot that many images for one session.
Yeah. My goal when working with portrait and pet photographers is I'm like, "Listen, you should have every single one of those sessions edited in an hour.
Yep, that's my goal, is
1
an hour.
hour."
Some if there's a lot of,
Sure.
yeah, like, there was one actually that had, I think I had 65 images total. It was 2 dogs that every single one had a leash because they had to be on leash. So, that actually took me hardly any time because I outsourced it.
Woo. You got help.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
exactly. But yeah, no, as you learn, it becomes so much faster. So just keep on doing it
I
because
wonder
that's the
if
only way to
people
really get faster. It's
that's true,
practice.
is practice, right. So, I wonder if people could reframe this instead of thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is taking so long, I'm so slow." If you could say to yourself, "I'm learning, and this is actually the slowest I'll ever be."
Mhm.
Like right now in this moment is the slowest I'll ever be. I will continually improve and get faster. So instead of being, all downtrodden about it, you could be hopeful. You could just shift the emotion to, wait, I'm going to get faster. I mean, there listen, as long as you continue to shoot and edit, everything's going to get faster, easier, more efficient, you'll be more effective. Everything is going to improve. Isn't that exciting? Couldn't you look forward to that instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. I'm so slow. Heather, you don't understand. This takes me so long." Okay, let's clean up your thinking around that and just focus on how much better you're getting.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, number 4, kind of similar, and that is we started to touch on this at the very beginning, but don't wait until you know how to do something, right? So,
Mm,
like, you can't wait to start to remove a leash until you, like, know all the different techniques and know all of the different things. Like, no, learn something and just go. Just
yes.
start. When I started this whole little rehab, one of the reasons actually we chose this house is we're like, "Oh, I think it's just some cosmetic rehab." I don't think it's a full on like, cause you see some of these houses where it's like there's a hoarder that was living in there, like, it is disgusting, it is like a full gut renovation job, and I'm like, "I can't handle that for my first reno." Turns out, guess what I got? Oh, knob and tube wiring. Oh, really old plumbing. Oh, all the things, new roof. Like literally everything was
Everything.
replaced.
Mhm.
The only thing that wasn't replaced was the air conditioner, and the HVAC still worked great. So thumbs up for that.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, like if I had waited till I knew all this, I would have never done this. And,
That's
you
such a
know,
good concept, Nicole. Actually, I just recorded a video in Elevate around this idea of how do I do that? Like,
mhm,
how do I start a business? How do I rent a house? How do I do that? And you're waiting till you know how so that you can do how. But the how is actually learned through the action that you
mhm,
take. The how is only ever revealed through action and result.
mhm.
So, I actually instituted a new rule in Elevate recently. They're not allowed to ask how.
Oh,
Okay, I'm being funny, but, no, but sometimes serious. They'll say, "How do I meet people?" What do you mean? You go meet people. Like, how do you learn how to gut a house and rent it? You have to do it. You know
right,
what this reminds me of? Our mentor told a similar metaphor, which is like, I could give you a book, diagrams and videos on how to swim. But
right,
until your ass is in the water, it's not going to matter, right? I could teach you about buoyancy and how to breathe and all of those things.
right,
But until you're thrown in the water, that's when you learn how to swim. I don't know how to ride a unicycle.
right, right.
But if you gave me a unicycle, I got to really get my hands on one cuz I use this a
Are you
couple
gonna get
times.
one of, like, the really no, that has 2 wheels, the big wheel. I was thinking the
Oh
old-fashioned big wheel
gosh,
bike.
right, right, right.
You running around your homestead on that,
Can you imagine in the
followed by all
woods?
your
Right.
chickens.
Oh my word. But I just think to myself, if I wanted to learn how to ride a unicycle, I would just have to get on it.
Right,
Like,
right.
so the how is only ever revealed through the doing. So you
Yes,
have to take the action to do it. So if you are waiting to learn and know everything, that's just a fool's errand because you'll be waiting forever. It'll never happen.
right, right. And, when you use this one in conjunction with number 1, seeking the advice from experts, oh, it works really, really well because things would happen in the house, like, for instance, that wall would not be straight at all, and then the countertop was supposed to go to the wall, but it looked ridiculous because it was totally bowed out, and our
Oh
contractor's like,
gosh.
"Hey, we have this problem." And he's like, "What do you wanna do?" I'm like, "What are our options?"
How about you
Like
fix it?
like, "I don't know." So then
Right?
he would tell me my options, and I'm like, "What would you recommend?" "Okay, great. Let's do that." So and the whole time I'm learning these things, but there's no way, like, you can't even see
Right.
what potential pitfalls are going to come up.
Right.
Like, you don't actually know the state of the house until you start pulling back some walls, and you're like, "Oh, look at that termite damage. Okay, let's replace some of those beams."
Okay, but let me ask you this. Because there are people who say like, "Oh, okay, those people are me." They would say, "I don't know how to buy, to gut, to do a rental house. Like, I don't know how to do all of that." And the reason I'm saying that is because I've never done it.
Right.
But the thing is, you had never done it either. So how did you get past this idea of like, I don't know how to do this? I mean, I know I can figure it out and get help, but I don't know what was like at your core thinking that propelled you to actually make the purchase?
Well, it's easy. It's looking forward to the end result
Mm.
and knowing that what this rental house will do for future retirement, for just future income, just knowing what the goal was.
So you
And
set
my
your eyes on
goal,
the vision.
yeah, yeah, my goal was to have other streams of income for retirement so I'm not just beholden to whatever the market's doing.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was
Okay.
easy. Once you're clear on that vision, it's either, "Hell yes, I wanna do this," or, "Meh, it's not worth all this effort." And this was a hell
Hmm.
yes. So, I mean, no matter what kind of, roadblocks came up, I was gonna figure it out.
Okay, but hang on. I think there's another component here because you had your eye on the vision, which is really smart because then you can figure out the how. But there also had to be some level of trust in yourself or belief that you could figure it out.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it wouldn't matter the vision. If I thought I couldn't do it, I wouldn't do it.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, there probably is, and I think having that experience with our house in Alabama and seeing the increase in equity that it's created and the monthly income that it creates from what we ended up putting into that, it's just like, "Oh, no, we need more of these." So, like, we got our feet wet with that.
Mhm.
So it was, that helps give you a little bit of confidence. And quite frankly, you can go to the worst case scenario. It's like, what's the worst case scenario? Oh, I buy a house and I have to resell it. You know, maybe maybe you lose a little bit of money, but quite frank, that everything's appreciating here so quickly that like we could have sold it at any point during the construction process and probably not lost money on it.
Right, right. Actually, I would take that one step further. I love this idea. I was teaching it yesterday around worst case scenario.
Mhm.
So, if you can emotionally digest the worst case scenario, such as I would just have to sell it, or in the case of a photography business, I go back to a job, right? That's the worst case scenario. Actually, I don't think that's the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario is a feeling. And that's
Mm,
what we're trying to avoid. So you sell the house, you go back to work, whatever it is, you feel disappointed.
right?
If the worst case scenario is not a circumstance because they're neutral, that's just what it is. If the worst case scenario is I'm going to feel disappointed, sign me up. I mean, I can handle that, right? The worst case scenario is a feeling.
Right. Well, and then on the contrary side of that, the worst case scenario of not moving forward, it is this feeling of regret, which I think is way
Correct.
stronger than a feeling of like, oh, I messed that up or disappointed or that didn't work out as I had hoped.
That well said. On either end of this, it's a feeling, it's an emotion.
Hmm.
So pick your emotion that you're willing to feel or possibly feel. Like and we're saying possibly because it may or may
Yeah.
not work out. We don't know.
Right. Disappointment is not a given. It's just, hey, if
Correct.
this doesn't work out, I like to ask myself, basically, what are my options? I like to have options,
Sure.
so, you know, if this doesn't go as planned, what are my options? Like where am I backed into a corner? Like what's the financial or emotional or time implications from
Yes.
whatever decision? And then also ask myself too, like, what if it all works out? Like, okay,
What if
is
that?
is that
Imagine.
worth this time, these potential headaches, this potential short-term stress? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
So,
but I
yeah.
also think that you, knowing you, believe so strongly that you're going to figure out how to make it work that it's almost like a foregone conclusion it is going to work.
Right, right.
Because
Yeah,
you just believe, you have confidence, you believe I'll figure this out. So even though you play out that worst case scenario and you're like, okay, I have a plan for that, but that's really not going to happen because I'm going to kill it. I'm going to figure it out. I believe in myself and it's going to work. And then you actually, by doing that, even unbeknownst to yourself, free yourself up. You release yourself to all kinds of possibilities
mhm.
just because you have the belief in yourself and the result, and you've digested the worst case scenario. It's actually a really brilliant strategy.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, awesome. Should we go on to lesson number 5?
Sure.
Alright, I love this one, and this is quality is worth paying for.
Oh, tell us more.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, in this particular case, this part of town, it depends on where you're getting this home. This is a part of town that is getting gentrified. It was a mill town until like the mid 80s. The mill shut down. North Carolina had a lot of textile mills. So all the town houses around it were these mill houses that were built in the 1930s by the mill owners where the mill workers would live, and they're like super cute, high ceilings, wood floors, like little 1,200 square foot little kind of bungalows. Anyway, when the mill closed, that town kind of took a
Yeah,
nosedive.
yeah.
There was no work, there was no jobs, so it was not a great part of town. But it was probably about 10 years ago, so 2010 or so. They started to revitalize. There was actually think the story of the town is one person kind of bought the whole downtown and was like, "We're gonna revitalize it."
Okay.
And then the government put in all these tax incentives. So the main little strip of the little downtown, which is the old mill building, was all rehabbed at the same time. So it wasn't like, where most places are, it's like dilapidated store, new store,
Yes.
dilapidated store. It was like the whole thing was rehabbed at the same time. Then there were tax incentives for businesses to move in. And it is awesome.
Oh, it
It's
worked.
it's beautiful because it has this old feeling because they rehabbed the old buildings
Oh,
that
that's
were
great.
gorgeous that you can't get architecture like that anymore. They, have seating areas along the sidewalks with music playing, like in little speakers. There's a minor league ball stadium across the street. And there's breweries and restaurants and shops and all sorts of fun things, ice cream stores and candy stores. And across from the baseball stadium, so minor league stadium, is this big giant green space for community events. They have like a research office for all the North Carolina universities. The whole kind of feel of the town is like a health and wellness. So it's like this
Hmm,
nutrition and fitness research area. They
interesting.
recently just got not approved, but all the things happened that it's moving forward. That like a US Olympic Committee training center is moving into the
Is
area,
that right?
and it's right next to the highway that's like a quick 25 minutes into downtown Charlotte. And there's a train that goes through there. I mean, it is
Perfect.
yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm like, this part of town is going through the roof.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
and so we chose to invest instead of doing like, normal rentals have like builder grade everything. And it's just like you walk in and it's very uninspiring.
Yes.
Um, where this I'm like, I'm gonna invest in a little bit higher end. Like I wasn't doing like, the highest end of anything, but it was like I went to the style tile store and I got beautiful affordable tile for the showers instead of just doing like the plastic shower. We got it was a just a solid dark gray granite or quartz countertops that, instead of laminate.
Yes.
We got just a really pretty white shaker even though they were the stock cabinets. They're just really beautiful, plain just it looks really really nice. So having that higher quality finish allowed us to come in for our rent. It's a two-bedroom, but allowed us to come in for our rent at just under the average three-bedroom price.
Oh, what is this
So,
price? I'm curious.
about 1,700,
Okay, nice.
where the average two-bedroom price is 1,400.
Oh, okay. So you came
And
in higher because it does not surprise me that you would go with nicer fix. Come on, you're Nicole Begley. Let's go. You have higher standards and you want to make things nice. And I love that about you. I would have never thought for one singular second that you would have gone with like builder grade anything. Come on.
Oh, I love it. Here's the
Yeah.
best part though, is like one of the fears for that, which if you guys think we're just talking about rental house rehab right now, think about it in terms of products
Yep.
and your photography
That's
business.
right.
One of the biggest fears is that, oh, if that higher price point, I'm not going to have enough interested tenants. I don't know. Does that sound like, oh, at these higher product prices, I'm not going to have interested clients? Um, that was actually the opposite case. There was a ton of interest in the home and it rented really, really quickly.
Which is amazing and certainly your goal, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you wanna get somebody in there as quickly as possible, so you just had this, like you have really good instincts, though. You're like, "I know I need to make this nicer." I know you're that's one instinct. Another one is this area is going to grow, and
Mhm.
it's going to only go up in value, that's and by the way, I just wanna say, God bless that developer who did that. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing because we have a small town near us that is what you described as one building will be rehabbed, but then there's 3 that are just completely all the windows broken out and graffiti
Right.
all over, right? And they can't get the town back on its legs because of that. And so that was a brilliant move on that person's part. But anyway, yeah, the quality matters. Have you ever seen this phenomenon where photographers will be too cheap and people won't buy them because they or hire them
Yes.
because they think they're no
Well,
good?
yeah. Have you guys ever looked at plane tickets and you're like,
Yeah,
$39?
what?
Like, Do they maintain the plane? I don't think I wanna fly on that plane.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I There is this phenomenon where people will search for things, even products and services especially, and they'll compare prices, and a lot of people, more than you might think, will actually spend more
Mhm.
on the higher quality item
Right.
because they understand that you get what you pay for.
Mhm. I mean,
So,
how many times have my parents always told me there's no such thing as a free lunch, and, like, you get what you pay for, and when something seems too good to be true, it
it
often
is.
is.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people that believe in that mindset. So if you have this, like, beautiful work and you're like, "Oh, it's all $25," like, people are like, "Huh? No." Besides the fact that you're just gonna be completely burnt out and exhausted.
Right.
So,
Right.
don't do that. But yeah, so one of the things that goes along with that though, it's you can't just have these beautiful, gorgeous products and higher prices and be like, "That's good.
Right.
They're just gonna come to me."
Right.
The missing piece of that puzzle is really dialing into your messaging and that connection with your ideal client, getting into
Absolutely.
the brain of your ideal client of what do they value, and then sharing that. So that's kind of what I was thinking of here when we were doing those nicer finishes. I'm like, all right, who is my ideal client? And my ideal client was somebody that's going to be coming in to work at the Olympics Training Center, somebody that's doing working at that research center, maybe somebody that's working at the baseball area, or potentially someone that is working in downtown Charlotte that, wants to get a little bit more for their money and wants a walkable experience because our little mill house is walkable to this little downtown.
That's
That was a
amazing. Yes.
non-negotiable for me. And, you know, getting a pet-friendly rental is challenging. So
Mm.
of course, my house is
Hello.
pet-friendly.
Right.
We have luxury vinyl, so it's all waterproof floors. And originally the property manager posted like 35 pounds or less. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm fine with any dog. like,
I love
like
all dogs.
yes, any dog. And so yeah, so our tenant has a pet, and and so it was getting into the mind of like envisioning
Mm,
who I wanted to be in that space and then building that space for that person.
so smart.
So we can do that for our photography business too. Like, who is your client? And it's
Absolutely.
not just someone with the dog. Like,
Right.
someone that has a dog that keeps their dog chained up outside their backyard is not your client,
Right.
even though they have a dog. Your dog is somebody that, like, this morning I sat on the couch and Cammy jumped up and she cuddled with me, and she's only allowed on my one couch.
Okay.
So I sit on that couch often when we want to cuddle. But anyway, like, your ideal client, someone that's like, "Hey, what are we doing this weekend?" "Oh, we're taking the dog, whatever." Like, I went to Thanksgiving, I took my dog with me. Like, get more into the brain, the mindset of the feelings of your client than just like, "Oh, they have a dog and they'll pay for nice things."
Right. Right. You have to dial that in. Yeah,
Mhm.
there has to be some strategy behind that rather than just saying I'm going to do everything for anybody who has a dog. Also, I want to relate this to hiring or participating in a group or hiring a coach or mentor.
Mhm.
I pay, and I know you pay, a
Mhm.
lot of money to be in groups and to learn from other people. And here's the thing, if you hire someone and you pay $11 to work with them, okay, I'm being funny because I'm actually thinking of Udemy, and which I like that platform.
Right, right.
So,
There's
not
certain things. There's
right,
certain things
right,
that are great for a quick, like, "Hey, I just need to learn this one easy skill." Like,
correct,
okay, fine.
correct.
But yeah.
When you're working with someone on building your business, I mean, I think it just behooves you to look for a quality leader, teacher, mentor, coach. And if you're spending $100, here's the truth. I don't care where you're at with your money. If you're spending $100 to work with someone, you're not going to fully trust them. You're not going to fully buy into what they are teaching you or the strategies they're sharing because somewhere in your brain, it might be in the background, you're thinking, well, they're only $100. Like, why would they only be $100? When you
Mhm.
start dropping thou thousands of dollars on training, well, usually it's a higher quality training, and you're gonna bring a different energy when you're
That's
spending.
it too.
That's it.
Mhm.
If I spend $100 to work with someone, my energy is like, "Oh, maybe I'll show up, maybe I'll be late, maybe I'll take it seriously, maybe I won't." But when I spend thousands, which I do, oh my gosh, my rear end is in the chair, ready to go, on time, teach me everything, let's go, because I will make it worth my investment just by the way I show up and the energy that I bring. So I wanted to add that as well. This spans all things, all areas. I love
Mhm.
that you were using the lessons from the rental house and we could draw all of these parallels to photography business, but it's true with everything in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so let me recap those one more time. So, our lesson number 1, previously known as lesson number 4, is seek advice from experts. Lesson number 2 is mistakes will happen. Use that as an opportunity to start from a place of new knowledge. Number 3, things take time and they're going to take more time when you're learning. Number 4, don't wait to start until you know how to do it. You're going to learn as you implement. Number 5, quality is often worth paying for,
Let's go.
except if it's a handbag.
Oh, we do have issues with the handbags. That is
Sorry,
for
there's
sure.
somebody out there that finds value in the handbag. That's fine.
No
You can buy your
judgment.
quality handbag, and they're probably like, "You guys, the leather's so much better. There's better pockets."
Yeah, but I put it on the floor of a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, I I yeah,
Oh.
no. The handbags will never make sense to me. That's okay. Everybody has
I
their
love it.
thing.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys found this really helpful. I loved talking about this and let's all get Heather on the rental house train one of these days too.
It's actually I mean, it has been on my list of thoughts, being friends with you, how could it not be? But, I have so many hangups about, like, borrowing money to make money, and oh my gosh, I can do that on a small scale, I'm practicing that muscle, but to drop, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it's like, oh my gosh, it's just currently beyond my capacity to comprehend. However, one of my new affirmations mantras I say is, "I am increasing my capacity for complexity."
I love that one. I love it. I love it. Yeah, cuz here's the cool thing about real estate investing. I mean, there's ways to do it with very little if no money down. Like,
See, you say this and I'm
there's
like, "Oh."
seller financing because so many of these deals happen just from person to person. They don't go through the MLS. They're not on the market.
Right,
And so you don't have to have traditional financing. You don't have to buy a house for cash. Sometimes it's someone that's retiring and they're like, I know I'm getting older. Like I have all this equity tied up in this house, but they will, instead of selling it through like the MLS, they'll find another investor that they'll do seller financing. So they draw it up legally with a lawyer. And they're the bank, you're paying them monthly, and then you're getting more, you, they're basically just the bank and you're paying them. And if you default, they still own their house,
right.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, so
lots of different ways.
you rattle everything off like it is so straightforward and simple. No, you just do this, and I'm sitting here, I think that drool is starting to leak out of my mouth because I'm like my brain just goes, like, into, like, "See, that's so complex," but I'm increasing my capacity for complexity, so just be patient with me
I will.
because
I will.
you explain it and it makes sense. I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I mean, I know the English language, I can understand what you're saying," but beyond that, my brain starts to go like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot."
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay,
I love
okay,
it.
thank you.
More conversations. All right, guys. I hope you guys found this helpful. Let us know at flourish.academy on is it Flourish Academy one word on Instagram?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Flourish Academy one word on Instagram and at Nicole Begley official on Instagram.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. If you want to talk real estate, I'm always game for that too, because I think it's super fun. And yeah, we'll see you next week. You guys have a great week.